Hey, I'm Dean and this is Legacy Voyage. In season 1, I'm documenting my journey to earning my first 100K net worth as a full-time college student. Join me as I share some of the lessons I learned along the way.
There's this quote that I really love, and it says, "Courage is not the absence of fear, but acting in spite." And I love this quote so much because I think it applies to a lot of things. But most recently, I was having a conversation and topic of faith came up. How do you define faith? What is faith? What does faith mean to you? And all the different things like that. It came to this point in the conversation where I related it back to this idea of courage, where faith is not the absence of uncertainty, but acting in spite of it. Because at the end of the day, I think there's always going to be that uncertainty. I think absolute certainty is very, very, very difficult to achieve. If not, it's impossible. And I was explaining that there's this idea that I really love. Throughout our entire lives, we're told two things. You do these two things, then you'll be okay. Number one is to avoid error, and number two is to pursue truth. On the face of it, it seems like those two things are very similar. They're the exact same thing where one says to avoid error, one says to pursue truth. Okay, that's the same thing. But actually, it's very, very different. Because if you live your life by number one, avoiding error, if you live your life by avoiding error at all costs, you don't want to make a single mistake. There are going to be things that you overlook because you don't want to make an error. You're not willing to make the mistakes in order to pursue truth, which is the second part. If you prioritize pursuing truth, then you're willing to make those mistakes that will get you closer to the truth that you want to get to. To avoid error at all costs, then you're not willing to take on that uncertainty. But if you pursue truth, then you're more willing to do that. And I think it's so important. Another epiphany that I had is that certainty does not equal knowledge. I can be uncertain of something and still say that I have knowledge of that thing. For example, I know that Washington was the first president of the United States. Am I completely, absolutely, 100% certain that that happened? No, but I think it's most likely that he was the president. And especially with these types of historical facts, I think there's a bunch of them. We can apply this idea of certainty doesn't equal knowledge, where I can say that I know something without being absolutely 100% certain that that thing is true. And even right now, as I sit here, I'm looking at chairs, I'm looking at trees outside, I'm looking at people walking by. And am I 100% certain that there's a tree outside? I don't know. My eyes could be lying to me. It could be something that isn't a tree that I'm looking at right now. Can I say I know there's a tree? I think so. I think I know that there's a tree out there because it looks like it. Now, philosophy, I have not dove in deep into it yet. This is a huge branch of philosophy of epistemology that I'm super interested in. And I'm just barely discovering the bare bones of it. And so this is my introduction into that. And down the road, I'll clarify, I'll philosophize, I'll reiterate and criticize all of my current beliefs around that. But that's where I am right now. And I think the fact that I'm just starting off and eventually I'll get to where I want to be. So that's the first thing. Another epiphany I had: failure without learning is true failure. I might have mentioned this in the last episode. I can't remember, but I think it's that important that I'll repeat it again. The only true failure that there is when you fail without learning. Because if you fail and you don't learn from it, then what was the point of it? And that's not failing forward. You're failing backwards. And that is true failing. That is when you actually fail. But I want to go deeper into that. What does it mean to fail without learning? I think failure without learning looks like you failing. Maybe you do learn. So maybe you say, oh, I probably shouldn't do that again, but you do the same thing over. That is without learning. Learning implies that you have a new approach. You take a new action the next time you do that certain thing. And if you go through the same process, but you don't take a different approach, a different action, then that is true failure because you're not learning from your past mistakes. That was another epiphany. The net thing I want to talk about is this weekend, I had a bunch of conversations with people that I'd never met before. As I was having these conversations, meeting them, talking, and going back and forth, I kept noticing this thing that was coming up over and over and over again. And it was that people only care about themselves. I mean, legit. I was having this conversation, and every time I would bring something up, they would say, oh yeah, I remember how I did this, this, and that. And this idea of me, this idea of everything's about me. It's a story that's constantly playing in every single one of our heads. I was sitting at a table, three other people at the table, there's four of us having this conversation. We would bring up something and every single person would chime in saying, oh yeah, I remember when I did this or I did that. And I kept saying it over and over again. Everyone only cares about themselves. It's when you take a genuine curiosity, a genuine interest in the other person that they start to take interest in you. It's from Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's one of the best books of how to learn to be likable. Because I think being likable is a skill. Being a people person is a skill. And that is one of the books that you have to read in order to learn and train that skill. And this is one of the biggest things is being interested instead of interesting. Because when you show genuine interest in something in another person, because they love themselves, they love their names, they love talking about their time and experiences and stories. They love that. When you give them an ear and you give them that genuine interest, then they in turn will be interested in you. They will like you more. The last thing I want to talk about is personifying relationships. What do I mean by this? I mean, a lot of the times you hear about what's your relationship with your mom, your dad, your kid, your coworkers, relationships with people. I think that's great. But you can also think of it as relationships with X, relationship with money or food or time or even yourself. And I think that's where this idea of applying relationships to non-physical things, to abstract ideas, I think that can really have a huge impact on the way you view those things. For example, what's your relationship with money? Do you hate money? Do you think it's the root of all evil? Do you constantly spend and splurge on things that you don't really need? Relationship with food. Are you constantly, and this is something that I can speak personally to, are you constantly binge eating? And when you do eat desserts, you feel bad about yourself and want to beat yourself up? What's your relationship with food? What's your relationship with time? Do you constantly procrastinate? And when deadlines come up, you wait till the last second. It's personifying these abstract ideas that I think it gives you a better concept, a better insight into those things. That is something that I think is super important. Okay, just ran into a whole bunch of opportunities. Moving on, life update. I can't lie. This past week it's been tough. Not super, super tough, but it's been tough. And I think the reason is because two things. Last game, or it was really just this weekend. I kind of injured my shoulder. Even the game before this, I was just been super sore and I haven't been able to get that workout in the gym. I think that's actually been a big part of it is because I really prioritize my health. I think health is super important and not being able to go into the gym and get that lift in, it's been tough not being able to do it. That's one of the reasons why I think I've been kind of off. Because of that, it's also impacting my eating habits. So lately I've been not like completely throwing things out the window because I'm nowhere near where I was last year, where I'll just binge eat like crazy. But I mean, in the mornings, I eat my daily omelet and Pro-Yo. By the way, Pro-Yo is fire protein yogurt. But then there's also the cereals and muffins that I eat. But it's not to the point where it was last year. I know that it's an infinite game. Health is an infinite game. Over the long run, I know that I'll be okay. So it's not too stressful. It's not something that I'm completely myself up over because I'm not, and I'm super proud of it. So that's the life update over this past weekend. It was super nice to chill with the Kamais a bunch. Super great people, great conversations. Always a good time. And I think that's super important is making time for relationships, purposefully making those times, calling home and having that quality time, I think is really important. So that's everything I want to talk about. I have another game today. My shoulder's still kind of jacked. We'll see if I play. I may or may not. We will see. If I do get completely injured, you'll find out in the next episode. But yeah, that's everything I want to talk about. Quick update on DJ News. Big things happening. We had a meeting the other day. It was super awesome. But yeah, I'll see you in the next episode.
I record these episodes completely free to share success with everyone. So the only thing I ask is that if you learned anything or found something interesting in this episode, just leave a review and share it with a friend. Only takes 5 seconds and it would mean the world. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next episode. Tatok, see you.